Hello, this is Ken. I like making things. I like making things out of paper, and I like making things cooler. Especially my figures. Sometimes figures don't look all that screen accurate. All they need is a bit of touch up here and there to unleash their hidden potential. I also love using everyday tools and materials to recreate iconic scenes from my figures, so they can shine on my display. Subscribe to my channel and join my DIY adventure as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it? In the past month or so, I've been working on various Spider-Man figures, and it all leads up to this. I'm gonna make a No Way Home diorama display. Since I don't have Green Goblin, Electro, or Doc Ock at the moment, I'm gonna swap in these three Venoms instead. Technically, two of them are kinda in the MCU already. I know most of you watch my videos to see me customize figures, but the main reason why I started this channel was because I wanted to make diorama displays for my figures, so they can shine on my display. I am pretty happy with these ones I've made so far, but I only have limited display space, so I'm gonna have to swap out this one, and replace it with a No Way Home one that can fit more characters. I got this cube-shaped cardboard thing here. This is the maximum size that will fit in a glass display cabinet. It may look like a lot of space, but I have to take the wings off Venom because it's starting to look crowded, especially if my goal is to include all these characters. I want to maximize the space so the figures can be displayed in a variety of ways, but the most important part is, I gotta keep it relatively screen accurate. So, can I make it? When I think of No Way Home, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the 3-packs box art with the 3 Spider-Men on the Statue of Liberty. But I just can't seem to get Tobey and Tom's Spider-Man to do their iconic poses. On top of that, it would be incredibly difficult to balance them on the rounded and slanted surface of the statue. Not to mention, it would be impossible to include other figures too. That is why I have decided to do the final battle scene on the fallen shield instead. The shield will still be slanted at an angle, but it will be much easier to balance figures on it. And when they do release Green Goblin, he'll fit right in as well. Here's the shield printed. Let me cut and build the shield. You may notice that the shield isn't perfectly round. That is because it's much easier to fold and glue things with corners. The more angles there are, the stronger the final structure will be. I guess I could have just used a plate or something, but I want to have flat surfaces for the figures to stand on. Marvel Legends figures don't have the best feet articulations, so having various flat surfaces should make balancing the figures a bit easier. Okay, here's the shield. It kinda looks like a giant penny. I made it as big as possible since this is gonna be the main piece, but it's not that interesting looking as a display. I need more. The majority of the fight against the villains took place in this construction site, which is perfect here because that means I can build elevated platforms for my figures to stand on. Having figures on different heights will make the display look more dynamic too. I'm gonna need a sturdier material for the construction site. I found these wood pieces from the dollar store. I like that they're already pre-cut, so I don't have to do the cutting myself. I just need to stack them in a way that makes them look like a construction site. Alright, here's what I came up with. I stacked 2 layers of wood in a slightly asymmetrical way to give it more structure and more surface area for figures to stand on. Now I just have to prop it up somehow. I found these wooden dowels at the dollar store too, and they're kinda the same height as a typical Marvel Legends figure. So this should work. Be right back. Okay, I painted the dowels off camera. I painted them silver with a bit of black gradient to give them that sturdy metal look, and I'm gonna do the same to the platform, starting with a black base, and then some silver on top. That doesn't look that good. Let me add a bit of color and weathering with the brown. There we go. That looks much better. It actually looks like rusted metal. Nice. Now I just need to glue the dowels underneath the platform. The challenge is to make sure the dowels are placed around the shield and not through it, which means most of the support is going to be on the outer edges. This looks pretty good, but the platform doesn't look that stable. It needs more support. Okay, I added a base to it. It's just a piece of cardboard, but I added a few coats of UV resin to the area where the dowels make contact with the base. The UV resin serves two purposes. The main purpose is to secure the dowels in place. It also gives context to the display. UV resin gives off this high shine, resembling water. And in the movie, the shield fell off the statue and landed near the water, so this worked out perfectly. Now onto the other details. First, I'm going to add a few more shorter dowels to make this look more like a construction site, and to suggest that this is only a section of the site. Next, I'm going to add more narrative elements to the display, starting with the spell. In the movie, this weird looking kid asked this strange looking man to draw a couple of circles because his BFFs couldn't go to school or something. And then an octopus, a dinosaur, and an elf got involved. Anyways, it got complicated, all because of the spell. So I'm gonna attempt to recreate that spell. I'm gonna use my Cricut machine to cut out a bunch of spells on this glittery gold vinyl. I want the spells to look somewhat shiny or reflective, and I'm gonna stick these spells onto clear plastic. Okay, I've never used vinyl before. I've only seen a couple of videos, so I may not be doing this right. That took a lot longer than I thought, but I got 3 rows of spells here. I'm gonna cut them into strips. With the strips cut, I can now form them into circles like this, replicating the spells that broke the multiverse. Speaking of shattering the multiverse, I also want to recreate that shattering effect. I did something similar to my Infinity Ultron figure. To create that shattered stained glass look, I'm going to use shrink plastic. First, I'm going to rough up the surface with sandpaper. Then I'm going to make it dark by rubbing a bit of oil pastel on it. Cut it up into various random shapes, and shrink them by putting them in the oven. Nice. In the movie, there's this purple glow, so I'm going to run my purple Sharpie on the edges of these pieces to give them that subtle purple glow. Alright, all that's left is to attach the pieces and make them into a freestanding structure. Ta-da! I didn't record that part of the process because it's tedious and not very interesting to look at. But I did record it when I did it for Infinity Ultron. You can check that out if you're interested. For this effect, I want to add a background to suggest the other universes. In the movie, the multiverse has this bluish purplish glow. I think I have the perfect material for that, but I need to paint the surface black first. I think the color will be more intense on black. I have this mica powder here. It has this blue and purple iridescent shift to it. Oh, it's not really sticking to the paint. I know what to do. I used mica powder once before, when I tried to make the Spiderverse portal. I learned that I can add a bit of alcohol to the mica powder to make it into an alcohol ink. Ooh, that applies much smoother. I just need to wait for it to dry and apply a few more coats. Ah, look at that. It's so mesmerizing. It's gonna go behind the shattered glass. Now I want to apply the purple shimmer onto the glass too. Let me see. Okay, all there's left is to attach the back into the main piece. Here's what the finished multiverse shattering effect looks like. It's beautiful. It doesn't really shift to blue anymore, but I'm okay with it. Now that I got all the effect pieces made, it's time to put everything together. Let's start with the integrated suit. This one needs to be on the shield. Gotta make sure he can stand on it first. Can you imagine? After all that work, only to find out that the figures can't stand on the shield. But lucky me, there doesn't seem to be an issue with the shield. Just for fun, here are all the other Tom Holland Spider-Man suits that were in No Way Home. Sometimes I forget that Tom Holland had 4 different looking suits in the movie. 5 if you include the final suit. I get why they didn't want him using the Iron Spider suit as his main suit in the movie, since it's a bit overpowered. But was a black and gold suit necessary? To be fair, I do think it looks cool. But he could have just used the upgraded suit in the first half of the movie. It's almost like they always want to have at least 2 new suits in each movie. But to their credit, these 4 suits do look unique and I don't regret getting them. Okay, let's bring in the 3 Spideys. This is the main reason why I wanted to make a No Way Home display in the first place. Oh man, this looks so epic. It reminds me of the scene where Tom Holland's Peter Parker finally meets the other Peters on the school's rooftop. These 3 don't need to do much. They just need to stand there and look cool. Let's make it a bit more interesting. Let me add the spell into the display too. The spell looks alright. It's a bit on the small side, but compositionally, it fills in the gap right in the middle without taking the attention away from the Spideys. As for the poses, I did have to adjust Tom Holland's pose a bit for him to balance on the shield. As for Toby, the decorative beam came in handy. I try to find ways to integrate the stands with support into the set. In this case, the construction beams double as support for the magic spell and Toby. But as a display, this still looks a bit underwhelming. It needs more, so let's bring in the villains. Ooh, look at that! That looks so much more dramatic. Of course, my ultimate goal for this display is to include the actual villains from the movie. But since they are not out yet, I gotta substitute them with characters that are just as impactful. And Venom is the perfect arch-nemesis. The only one that doesn't belong is the winged Venom without his wings. But that Venom looks the most like Venom out of the 3. And putting him against Andrew's Spider-Man, the Spider-Man that looks the most comic book-like, just makes sense. The Multiverse Shattering effect looks really good next to the Venom figures. That specific shade of purple matches Venom really well. What do you think? Do you like this setup? Which version of Venom do you prefer in the MCU? I thought I would like the winged Venom figure the most, but I actually appreciate that the 3 Venoms are unique in their own ways, just like the 3 Spider-Men. That said, I did not anticipate how crowded it looks with 6 characters on it. I thought I would have more space. Let me try and rearrange the figures. Let me separate the Spider-Man and Venom. How does this look? This is a fun way to show off the different versions of Spider-Man and Venom. Seeing the 3 Venoms standing side by side like this made me realize just how different the designs are. I used to think movie Venom must have a specific definitive look that's faithful to the comics. But with the Multiverse saga going on, it will be interesting to see Venom variants on screen interacting with each other. That said, I don't love this formation. It looks a bit too bottom heavy. I prefer the previous configuration more. Let's switch things up. Let's bring in Ned and MJ. Even though they didn't do any of the fighting, they still played important roles in the movie. Ned is now magic, and MJ was in charge of the magic box. I love that I can have Ned and MJ posed in a way that makes sense narratively, and I get to feature the props more here, including the portal to the school lab. What other combination of characters can I do? Let's add the other 2 Spider-Men to the mix. Ooh, I thought I wouldn't be able to do a side-by-side pose like this on a slanted shield. But surprisingly, the 2 Spider-Men balance really well. It's like they're acting as each other's counterweight. As for Ned, I think he pairs really well with Andrew's Spider-Man. Their interactions in the movie were so funny. Let me change it up a bit more. Ah, that's better. Can't forget the wizard himself. I love this configuration of the display, but it's a bit too depressing, knowing what happens next in the movie. The only minor issue here is that I don't really know what to do with MJ and Ned. So let me remove them. This looks cleaner. Placing the emphasis on the 3 Spider-Men, with Doctor Strange at the back undoing the multiverse breaking spell. Despite this being one of the older Doctor Strange figures, I actually really like it. It is very animated. The newer Doctor Strange figures are a bit too stoic in a way. Alright, this is gonna be my No Way Home display for now. The 3 Venoms need a home, and this is the perfect display for them as of right now. I am surprised I managed to do so many variations of this No Way Home display. Normally when I make a diorama display, I have a very specific vision in mind. But for this one, I didn't have a solid plan because Doc Ock, Electro, and Green Goblin haven't been released yet. So I kinda have to leave the display a bit more open-ended. It turned out so fun. It reminds me of one of those 90s playsets. You know what I'm really proud of? I moved to my current place in early 2020, right as the pandemic stopped the world. So I had all this time to organize the room and display my figures. I really wanted to elevate my endgame figures and make a display for them. Here's a photo I took in early 2020. You can see that I kinda had an idea for the display already. I wanted to document my progress, and that's why I started this YouTube channel, but I needed to work my way up to the endgame diorama. So I started small and tested various techniques. And here I am 3 years later. My wall is now full of displays that make me so happy. I just want to thank you for being a part of this journey. I feel like I learn something new every week, and I get to apply what I learn in future videos. Being inspired is such a powerful feeling. That is why I say it at the end of all my videos. It may go away eventually, but until then, stay inspired and I'll see you next week. I can make it, so can you.